There we go. That's the Pompano. Yes, sir. Look at that, y'all. Man. What's up, everybody? Eddy Scalez. Back again with the mid-flow scales, and today we're talking pompano fishing. I'm gonna show you today how to tie on the pompano lure. I'm gonna show you my rig, my setup, everything I use to catch these fish. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into my tackle box, and I'll show you guys what I use to catch pompano. Now this right here, if you've never seen one before, is called a goofy jig or a pompano jig. You can find these at your local bait and tackle store. You can find these Bass Pro Shop, Academy Sports, Walmart, wherever. Just make sure you get you a goofy jig, pompano jig. They have different names, but this is what it should look like. You can find these pretty much anywhere, so make sure you go ahead and pick you up some. Now, I also recommend you pick you up some teaser jigs. These are called teasers, and a lot of people make their own teasers. You can find these in the store as well, but make sure you pick you up some teasers. You're gonna need these to catch some pompano. Once you determine which size pompano jig you're ready to throw, the next step is to get it tied on. Now we have some monofilament right here. This is what I like to use. You can also put on fluorocarbon leader. Either one works just fine. Lately I've been experimenting a lot with monofilament. I usually throw fluorocarbon, that's my go-to. This is Yozuri 20-pound test fluorocarbon, and this is, I think it's called Grand Slam 20-pound test monofilament. So you can't go wrong with either one. Honestly, in my personal opinion, you're better off going with the monofilament. It's a lot cheaper to buy, and I don't think the pompano really care too much about it. Fluorocarbon, if you're trying to target other species, that's probably what you want to use, but with catching pompano, they don't really care as much, I found. So let's go ahead and get this tied on, and I'll get my knot started. I'm going to tie this to 10-pound braid. Okay, so right here, I got about 2 to 3 feet worth of monofilament already cut and ready to tie on to my braid. Like I said before, I'm throwing 10-pound braid and tying on 20-pound monofilament leader. And you're just gonna take, I'll say about 6 to 7 inches like this, and you're gonna lay it over the top of each other just like that. And I'm just gonna take both lines and I'm gonna kind of bend them into a loop. Just like that. That's all I did. And now that I got them bent into a loop, I'm just gonna take my tag in of monofilament and also my tag in of braid, and I'm just gonna run it back through the loop like that. And I'm gonna do that same thing about 4 to 5 different times. Just take that tag in of the monofilament and the braid and just run it back through the loop. I think that was 4 times. I'm gonna run it back through, and now we have kind of a knot that we just need to cinch down. I usually just go ahead and pull each tag in. I'll pull this in right here that I'm holding in my hand and a braided line, and I just pull it all the way tight until you get a nice secure knot like that. Take a look at that. Hopefully you can see that, and you can lick it if you want to cinch it down, but really if you just pull it tight, it's not going anywhere. Now that you got your braid to the leader tied on, we're just gonna cut our tag in. And you could cut it pretty close. It's not going anywhere. And that's not as close of a cut as I wanted to get it, but you guys get the point. You can cut it pretty close, and now I got my leader to braid tied perfectly, and that knot is really secure. That fish isn't coming off this right here. It's not going anywhere, so we're good to go. I actually don't know the name of this knot. If anybody knows the name of this knot, make sure you leave a comment below. Tell me what the name of this knot is called, but this is what I tie probably 95% of the time. So now we're gonna go ahead and tie our pompano jig on, and I use a loop knot to tie on my pompano jig. So we're gonna take the end of our leader here, and if you don't know how to tie a loop knot, hopefully the camera is picking this up. You just take the end right here and you just make an overhand knot, just like that. Just make a overhand knot. Hopefully you guys can see that. And I'm gonna take my pompano jig and I'm gonna put my pompano jig on like that. Just put it at the end. And then next, I'm gonna put my teaser on. I always put my teaser on the opposite way that I put my pompano jig. So say for example, if my hook is faced that way, I just put my jig on like that. I'll put my teaser with the hook facing the opposite way. So let me go ahead and see if I can get it through if I got a steady hand. That way it's gonna look something like this. You know, you can do it however you like, but me personally, that's how I like to put it on. So now I got my loop still up there. You still should have, actually let me hold it like this. You still should have your loop sitting up there, just like that. You want to take your end and you're gonna put it through the back side of the loop. So let me put it down here just so you can see it. You're gonna take the back side of your loop and you're gonna put it through just like that. Just gonna put it through the back side just like that. And now you're gonna take your end and you're gonna wrap it around back on your line 3 times. Just 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then you're gonna put it back through the loop, but this time you're gonna put it through the front side of the loop. And once you got it through there, I just pull my end close and I just pull my main line and I cinch it down to a nice knot. And then I'll go ahead and take my pliers to make sure I got it cinched down really good. And that knot's pretty strong, it's gonna hold up. That's your loop knot. Let me go ahead and cut my tag in. You can cut this. I always leave just a little bit. You can cut it as close as you want to, but I always leave a little bit. And that should be your finished product. A nice loop knot. So now we got our pompano jig and our teaser tied on. Hopefully you can see that. Now we're ready to start fishing. So we're gonna go ahead and get out there. We're gonna throw this around so you guys can see how to work this lure. And I'm gonna show you a couple techniques that I found very useful over the years. So let's go hit the water. But before we do that, I'm also gonna show you my rod and my reel that I'm using. This is the rod that I'm using today. I got my BG Daiwa 2500 on a 7-foot rod. It came with the BG Daiwa. You can honestly use whatever rod you feel comfortable with. Like I said earlier, I got 10-pound braid tied on here. So you don't want to go over a 2500 reel. You're gonna be, if you're jigging for pompano, you're gonna be doing this motion all day long. So 2500 is perfect. If you want to go 2000, you can go 2000. It's a light rod as well. I'll say 2000 to 2500 is kind of like the sweet spot. So make sure you get you something a little bit lighter so when you're jigging for pompano, you don't get tired. So that's what I'm running. We're gonna get over there and we're gonna toss this around. I'm gonna show you guys how to work this lure. Stay tuned. Let's get into it. Okay, so now that we got our pompano jig tied on, we're ready to catch some pompano. So let me show you the technique that you need to catch the pompano. You want to cast your jig out there. We'll just cast it right in front of us. And the most important thing to note is you want your jig to sit on the bottom. Your jig needs to be touching the bottom to catch fish. And all you're gonna do is just pop it up off the bottom. Come a little bit closer so they can see the motion. And give it a couple pops up and down and reel back to yourself. Couple pops, just a little flick of the wrist like this, and just reel it in. Reel in that line, reel in the slack. Now, you want a little bit of slack in your line, not a lot, but just ever so slight slack in your line. Just give it a couple pops and reel back. Couple pops, then reel back. I'm gonna cast it again, just so you can see what it looks like from over there when I'm fishing. And cast it out. Make sure it hits the bottom. You know, you wanna make sure you're on the bottom. That's where you're gonna get most of your bites at. And you just wanna kinda go up and down. I actually had a bite right there. Just kind of flick your wrist up and down. Now what you're doing is called jigging. Now, whenever that lure pops up and down from the bottom, it messes with the fish's mind so much to the point that they gotta check it out and see what's going on. It just bothers them. They can't stand it. So they're like, hey, what's going on over there? Let me just see what it is. And they'll bite it. You set your hook and just be prepared to start reeling. So that's all we're doing. We're just jigging. I give it a couple pops, switch up the cadence a little bit, maybe give it like one pop. Let it sit for a second, another pop, let it sit, and then you reel it in. Now, I'm gonna show you guys another technique that I found to be helpful. It's kind of almost like a side jigging technique. You're just kind of jigging, but you're jigging to the side like this with a side arm. And you're just letting it skirt across the bottom of the, wherever you're fishing at. So you just kind of give it a little side jig, reel in the slack, side jig, reel in the slack. You know, if you guys want to see me doing that, make sure you check out the video. I'm going to post a link to the video so you guys can check it out of me doing a little side jig technique, and you'll catch fish, man. You just keep practicing until you get it right, but you'll catch fish, guaranteed. All right, just so you guys can see the technique one more time, I'm going to cast it out just right here in front of me. Make sure my lure hits the bottom. I kind of want to reel the slack in to where it's a little bit of tight, but not like completely tight. And then you just want to pop it up and down, just like this. Just look at my wrist right there. You just like this, up and down. You don't gotta put too much pressure on it, just up and down and work it back to you. Let it sit for a second, give the fish time to really think about whether they want to bite it or not, and just go back to it. Depending on the depth that you're fishing, depending on the tide or the wind, current, whatever, that's how you choose what size lure you want to use. I got a 1/2 ounce tied on right now. It's a pretty big one. I usually personally throw a 3/8 ounce. That's like a good all-around lure to throw. So get out here and make sure you try it out for yourselves. I'm going to show you guys this clip of me catching pompano right here so you guys can take a look for yourself. All right, in case you guys were wanting to know, this is my setup right here. Like I said, I got that pink teaser and I got a chartreuse color jig. To me, and in my opinion, this is not only my favorite color combination, but it's the best color combination that you can use. All right, y'all, so like I was saying earlier, it's a pretty windy day today. And you know, one technique that I like to use sometimes during windy days is my side jig, I guess you can call it. There's no real name for it, but I just kind of, instead of doing your traditional up and down jigging like that, I mean, that works too, that'll get you bites, but if you're flying against the wind, I almost give it like a little side jig, and that technique seems to work and get the strikes for me. So switch it up, man. See, look, speaking of getting the strikes, I'm hooked up right there. That's some side jigging. I don't feel like a keeper. I feel like a small one, but fish is a fish at this point. That just goes to show you the technique works. All right, buddy. And hey, man, side jigging technique. Try it out. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully some tips in this video help you to catch some pompano. So make sure you guys get out there and put some of these tips to use, man. The pompano are still running. It's not too late to catch them. I'm Eddy Scalez. This is Mid-Flow Scalez. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure you check out this video right here, or you can even check out this video, man. Again, I'm Eddy Scalez. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one.